Hello everyone. I just finished a workout and I wanted to share this beautiful story today. And some of you may or may not know that I've been doing the spiritual work since I was 15, reading my first book, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, and did my guided meditation where I didn't know who I was anymore at one point, right? So I was disidentifying myself with the ego. And so from that point on, the inner work started. And I've also been connecting with angels, with spirits, and it doesn't matter what religion, what background you come from. And this can apply to all, right? I believe in spirituality. I believe that we are that we are spirit having a human experience. And so sometimes religion and cultures add their own human perspective to it, which can cloud our vision and our thought and our belief system of what we think that is. So this is why I call it spirituality. And so moving forward, as you all know, my dear sister-in-law Jessica passed away on Monday, and through this difficult transition and this challenge and grieving, which is ongoing, I did connect with her the night before she passed away. So she passed away around, I think, between 9 and 9:30 on Monday morning. And earlier that morning, so around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, I had this vivid vision that woke me up. And she was dressed in white and had a huge smile on her face. She was no longer suffering from the cancer. And she had this beautiful glow and this white light around her. And her dog Sheila, who unfortunately passed away the Thursday before, they were waiting until Jessica went to the hospice in order to put her down. It's been a few months that this beautiful dog was ready to transition. And so there was beautiful Sheila there beside her, almost like a totem, like an animal totem. And then my dog, Sasha, who passed away not this September, but last September, on her other side. And so they were both standing there, sitting so proud. And I just remember seeing her and feeling the unconditional love. And this energy that came over my body is really undescribable. But she looked at me in the eyes and she said, "I am safe." She said, "It's beautiful here." And she said that she's okay. And then all of a sudden I see her fade into the background. And then my childhood friend's mother, who unfortunately passed away years ago, she was the sweetest soul, and I consider her my second mom. She was there and she helped greet Jessica. And I just remember her looking back at me smiling, and she was surrounded by, again, this white light and these angels. And then the vision slowly faded. And then I woke up. And it's sharing the story is both vulnerable, yet exciting, a little difficult because it's for me, inner beauty's been my healing journey, and the more that I can talk about these experiences, I feel like the more I can help move through them. And if I can help anyone along the journey as well by sharing this, then I feel like that's a cherry on top, right? And so, yeah, it was this experience that I will never forget for the rest of my life. And I remember having a conversation with Jess before crossing over many conversations. We've done, lots of angel cards together, and we've had deeper discussions. And she did say that she was going to connect and visit with us in her own unique and divine way. And so I've been getting signs left and right from her. I can hear her through my left ear. When I was finishing off the dishes on Saturday at my brother's place, and after having a day full of board games with the girls and just laughing and playing, and the time was just flying by so fast, it was really magical. And I was just washing the dishes, and I can hear her voice again saying, thank you, thank you. And that would be Jessica. She's always saying thank you, always so grateful and kind. And so it's been beautiful connecting with her in this new way. And so, yeah, I wanted to share this message because I know a lot of us have lost a loved one or loved ones, and it's very challenging to try and process that only from the human perspective. And so I think there's this component of love, of acceptance that needs to happen in order for us to start transcending the pain surrounded by the loss. And it doesn't make it any easier. There's still strong emotions and triggers that happen, and healing is organic, and it takes our own divine time, and we're all different on how we do that. But I've heard this quote a while ago, and I'm really putting it to the test with this, or implementing, I should say. I forget who said it, but someone said, time doesn't heal, consciousness does. And so I do believe that there's a gestation period because we need to be triggered by different events and different things in our lives, and that does take time. So there's a gestation period like a tree, right? That needs to grow. However, we can either align with that gestation period, or we can resist that, which takes longer. And so there's no right or wrong answer. But what I'm saying here is that if we add this component of consciousness, which is really tapping into that unconditional love, tapping into the higher frequency, filling up our emotional cup so that we can face and observe and create this safe place for these big emotions that come up with loss and with grief, so that we don't suppress them and that we don't allow them to take us over, which those both will happen because we're human and we're learning how to do this, right? But it will get easier with time if we add this level of consciousness and intention behind it. And so I remember the last night that we saw Jessica at the hospice, me, myself, and my partner, and Dwight, my son, who's going to be 9 in July. I went to see her, and we had a beautiful visit. And she was going to walk us out because that's just Jess. She's just, always just so full of love. And she couldn't get up. She was in too much, it was just too much for her to get up. And so we looked back and we said, Jess, no, don't get up. We're going to come to you. Don't worry, And so she had both hands on her walker. And then Taylor, my partner, put his hand on one of her hands. Dwight put his hand on the other one of her hand. And then I put both of my hands on them. And I was the one facing her, and then Dwight and Taylor were here beside. And we just looked at her, and we just poured all of our love. And we just said how much we love her, and that, we will connect again. We'll see her soon, because this life is very short when we look at the bigger picture, even though it sometimes seems very long when we're dealing with these challenges. And she looked at us and she said, wow, it's so beautiful. You all have angel wings. And then we gave her a hug and a kiss on the forehead, and we said our final goodbyes. And I will never forget that moment either, where, when people are ready to cross over, they will see the visions that are on the other side. They are greeted by angels, by loved ones, and they are not alone. And so if that brings anyone comfort today, regardless of what you believe in, I'm just going to share from my heart, and then you can take what resonates and throw out the rest. I truly believe that there is an afterlife, and that earth is like a school, and ego that we talk about, the fear, only exists here on earth, and we are meant to heal and transcend those wounds, which is why we come here. And so we may never comprehend why someone leaves and transitions the way they do. I mean, if you think Jessica is only 33, she got diagnosed with cancer at 30. I mean, it was March of 2020 or 2021 to 2020. No, 2020 when COVID happened. It was 2020, I think. 2021, whatever. You get it. And so it was 3 years of her battling this, and that cancer that she had was stage 4. And usually only really old people get it, or people that are on incredibly heavy drugs, and she does not do heavy drugs. I mean, she's a mom of 3 girls, right? She dedicated her life to her 3 girls and her family. And so to try and understand that from a human perspective, we will never understand. And so if something has happened to you, regardless if you're going through grief and you've lost someone unexpectedly, or maybe it was expected and you can't understand why, or maybe you're going through something completely different, but this still applies. I want you to know that we will never understand and comprehend the reason behind it, and that is okay. For us to try and understand it, we're hitting our head up against the wall, and we're trying to do that from a human perspective. And that's what I mean by bringing in the higher perspective, bringing in the love, bringing in the acceptance of accepting it as is. We may not agree with it, but we can still accept it without knowing, without understanding, and without having a reason. Only ego needs those things. Only fear needs those things. So the more that we can accept that, which takes time, multiple triggers, multiple feeling your feels, multiple filling up your cup. I mean, this is an ongoing process, right? The more that we can dissolve the idea that things should be different, so that we can now learn how to live in this with this change, right? We are meant to evolve, and not everyone is meant to continue with their lives, as hard as that concept is to grasp. And the more that we can adapt, which is really hard, right? I don't want to dismiss how hard it is. But the more we can adapt, the freer we will become. And to be patient, because we all do this in a different way, and that there is help out there, there's support in whatever it is that we need in those moments that are very, very heavy. And again, there's nothing wrong on putting it on the shelf consciously so that you can fulfill daily responsibilities and take a break from it. Because I believe that healing pain, grief, or trauma, or whatever it is like a cabbage, right? Just beautiful cabbage. And these layers of the cabbage come off with each trigger we have. And every time that we're conscious and we're present and we create a safe place for that emotion to come up and do that inner work, we remove part of that layer. And eventually, we don't get to choose how long it takes, right? We just need to show up and be present for the trigger and the pain and the emotions. Eventually, that transcends on its own. And I want to make it clear that transcendence doesn't mean that we will stop missing the person or forget about the situation. What it means is that there's no more fearful, energetic charge when we think about that situation or person. So for example, I can even use the separation that I've been through years ago that took quite a long time. It was in steps, right? The first step was grieving the initial loss and learning how to be on my own again without even my little guy, because we split it 50-50. That was weird. That was really weird, because I was with him since I was 18. And so there was that concept. And then there was opening up my heart again to someone new. That was a whole other challenge. And then a new relationship forming too, and then dealing with those triggers that were actually part of my past and healing those wounds. And so it was ongoing for a while, and there's different depth like that cabbage I was talking about, right? Same thing with grief. And again, you can't get it wrong. I want you to know that you're valid in every experience and every feeling, and you can take as much time as you need, my love. So that being said, I just want to say how much I love you, that I'm here for you, and you know that as much as we are grieving our own experience, I want to leave us with something that I've been going through recently, that we cannot process someone else's grief as we are grieving. the way that we can actually support other people around us that are grieving is by doing their own work for ourselves. So for example, I started this whirlwind of trying to process this for my brother, his 3 girls, my parents. And I'm like, but what am I doing? Here I am trying to even process how it would feel in their shoes as a way to, how would I say that? It wasn't helping at the end of the day. There's nothing wrong with that because I'm very empathetic, but it wasn't helping. Here I am 4 months pregnant with a baby in my belly, knowing that all of my emotions actually affect the baby. So it's important for me right now, and for you wherever it is that you're at, to process your own grief and what you're going through. And as you do that, you organically support those around you. And that is way more impactful than getting lost in that whirlwind of trying to put yourself in other people's shoes, because you will be no good for anyone at the end of the day. And so even though we all are at different stages and different tools, and we have different tools to help us through that, if we really want to have the biggest impact while we are healing, when we find ourselves trying to think of our family and what they're going through as we are grieving, just know that that is not helpful, that could create a whirlwind for you, and that is not your responsibility to heal their grief. It's your responsibility to do your own work and to be there and support them through that process. What they need is not for you to try and put yourself in their shoes. What they need is the love and the support that you have to offer as you monitor your cup and make sure that you're filling that up as much as you can. So I'll leave it at that. I hope that was helpful. Again, I'm just sharing from life experience. And so I hope that you give yourself the sense of grace, because it's messy, but we're all in this together. As much as we are going through our individual experience, we are a collective. And from my heart to yours, I send you so much love.